Hi, my name is Chia. I'm here to present Singapore Art Museum's research on the development of the Singapore Art Museum Touch Collection and the impact of its facilitated outreach. I'm presenting on behalf of Sharon Chen, and the co-contributors of this research are Maria Tang and Caleb Tay, as well as former Singapore Art Museum staff Wang Ting Ting and Seren Chen. Singapore Art Museum, otherwise known as SAM, focuses on international contemporary art practices, specializing in Singapore and Southeast Asia. SAM aims to be pivotal among contemporary art museums in the region, inspiring humane and better futures. Through contemporary art, SAM makes infinite room for everyone to think, feel, experience, and imagine. Visitors can extend their SAM experience through complementary and exhibition-related education and public programs. Some outreach programs extend out of the museum to schools and community centers, as well as partner locations. While educating audiences on museum etiquette that not all artworks can be touched, the SAM Education and Programs team found that it would be beneficial to develop a collection of artworks that can be experienced in a tactile manner, giving birth to the idea of the SAM Touch Collection. In terms of visual impairment, as of 2018, there are over 660 persons with disabilities in Singapore, of which 10% have significant vision loss. In Singapore, the primary organization that caters to VI audiences is the Singapore Association for the Visually Handicapped. It runs a special school called Lighthouse School, which provides education from primary to pre-university level. There are also other organizations catering to the needs of the visual impaired, such as Guide Dogs Singapore Private Limited. And currently, there are 3 mainstream secondary schools that serve children with visual impairment and provide integration programs to offer specialized support to visual impaired students following the mainstream curriculum. In 2018, accessibility provisions in Singapore museums were actually just limited to magnifying glasses and access to guide dogs. Now, the Singapore Art Museum's Touch Collection is an initiative to extend the contemporary art experience to audiences of all backgrounds and abilities. The creation of the SAM Touch Collection reflects the changing roles of museums, while audience engagement goes further than observation and reflection to interaction and creation of an experience that is active, personal, and social. The aims of the SAM Touch Collection: to make art accessible and inclusive of visitors with special needs, elderly and the younger students, to also allow for the exploration of artworks through touch, to provide an experiential approach to understanding contemporary art, and to engage audiences meaningfully. Adaptation must be made from an artwork from the existing SAM artwork in the National Collection. It should be created by Singaporean artists and addresses concepts and themes relating to the historical, cultural, and social aspects of Singapore. And of course, Singapore Art Museum being a contemporary art museum, the adaptation should be reflective of mediums and techniques used in contemporary art practices. Now, as of now, we have completed 5 adaptations and 2 audio descriptions, with 3 currently being produced. We have reached out to over 9,600 participants. Now, in terms of the development of adaptations, right now we are actually working with artist Izam Brahman, who is a multidisciplinary artist who has gained recognition for his use of common yet accessible and unconventional media. Now, for the adaptation that's currently being developed, of course, it is inspired by his previous work, and using different types of leather, he intends for the participants to experience his works and to introduce them to unconventional materials used in his practice. Now, gathering feedback from the visually impaired community is an important step in the adaptations in the development of all adaptations in the Sam Touch collection. Now, it is something that we learned along the way, and it also serves as an outreach to the visually impaired community and helps our artists to understand the needs of the community on a first-hand basis. Now, for his adaptation, Izam has tested the 36 sets of leather samples with participants and found interesting insights in their preferred texture and thickness. So even the smell of leather has an impact on the preference. It's interesting, right? Now, in terms of development of audio descriptions, which are also a very key component of the Sam Touch collection, actually we engage freelance audio describers or companies specializing in audio describe, and these are not common in Singapore. So in 2019, the Singapore Repertory Theatre engaged trainers from Australia to conduct and train 10 audio describers for theatre production. So one of our former staff, Sharon, was trained and produced audio descriptions for the Sam Touch collection. As with the development of audio descriptions, feedback from the visually impaired community is important. Now, as an accompanying resource, recorded audio descriptions really are important as part of the Touch collection. So as the team, the SAM team for outreach is also very small, the recorded audio description allows for external organizations who want to make use of the SAM Touch collection to borrow the adaptations and conduct their own self-guided exploration of the Touch collection. And they can do so in their own pace. We have an accessibility intern who is Caleb, and Caleb has visual impairment. So this is an example of feedback that we have gathered from Caleb, who has participated in the provision of feedback for audio description of another earlier artwork adaptation by artist Zulkifli Mahmud. So the experience helped him to understand not only the construction of the adaptation, but also the intention of the artist in producing the work. In terms of the other facilitated outreach programs, the Sam Touch collection has also been brought to audiences with mobility issues who are unable to visit the museum or have previously not been interested to visit due to limited access to visual arts. Some of the places that we have brought the Touch collection to will be Dialogue in the Dark, serving people with disabilities, SPD, as well as a senior care facility called the Society for Aged Sick. Now, in terms of the impact of facilitated outreach efforts from these sessions, Sam has actually brought about greater awareness of artworks within the national collection and presented these in more accessible formats which are relatable to the needs of various audience segments. So feedback collected from these facilitated outreach sessions has also sparked a more concerted effort within the museum to provide a more accessible museum experience for all. For example, an example actually would be the conception of the Gato Indrajati exhibition, which took place from June to October last year, where the museum worked with the artist Gato that you can see here, and Society for SPD serving people with disabilities to design an interactive exhibition which would allow audiences with disabilities to easily access. So seniors in care facilities have also been inspired by the Sam Touch collection and the artists, because our artists actually come into our senior care facilities with us to facilitate the use of the Sam Touch collection, and the seniors are very, very inspired to even create their own artwork, and we'll be having an exhibition of their work in Singapore Art Week next year. Right, moving on. COVID-19 has actually presented a set of challenges for the museum, with even more emphasis on public safety. So we really do not have an answer But extra precaution is undertaken in the development of the adaptations, including constantly sanitizing test materials and ensuring that the materials are durable for vigorous sanitization. And of course, our outreach efforts have also stopped since April 2020, when the Singapore government imposed a restriction on activities. And as the restrictions are easing, we have also begun conversations with our partners to develop programs that will be taking place online. If you have any questions, please feel free to email Sharon at sharon.chen@singaporeartmuseum.sg. Thank you very much.